So when I was in law school, I met some people who would hide books in the library. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is April and you're welcome back to my YouTube channel if you are returning. If you're new here, then of course you are welcome. I do videos on a number of topics related to education, insight and entertainment. So if you want to filter out my videos, then make sure to go to my playlist section on my channel, and then you can scroll through my playlists and see exactly which playlist you are interested in, and then you can watch the videos that are related to that particular playlist. But in today's video, as you guys can see from the title, we are going to be talking about law school. We are going to be talking about how to not fail in law school. So basically the critical things that every law student must know or must do in order not to fail in law school. So stay with me and we'll get straight into this video. If you don't know me, then let me just do a brief introduction. I studied at the University of Ghana School of Law and I graduated last year with a first class degree, so I do kind of know what I'm talking about. So anyway, let's get straight into this video. The very first critical thing that I would like to talk about is this concept that we call in Ghana chew and pour. Okay, most people say that in Ghana we have a chew and pour education system. That basically means that you just memorize information. So let's say you take a textbook, you memorize all the information or as much information as you can from it, and then you go and you spill it all into the exam. So that's what we call the chew and pour mechanism, and that is what a lot of students in Ghana are used to because of how the education system is like. So basically students take this chew and pour mentality from SHS into university. And from what I've heard and from what I know, this chew and pour mechanism applies to a lot of courses, even in the university. But guess what? It does not apply to law. So anyone who says that, oh, if you study law, right, you can do chew and pour, even law students say this, I don't know personally, from my experience, I don't know how you can do chew and pour and get an A. I honestly don't understand it. Maybe you can do chew and pour and get a B, maybe you can get a C, but getting an A, I just don't get it. I'm not really a chew and pour person because I don't have a fantastic memory, so I rely more on my strategic and reasoning skills. I think you can see even that from my channel, right? Most of my education videos are strategic styled videos because that's what I'm good at. So yeah, basically when you do the chew and pour methodology, you shouldn't expect to get an A, because the way you're examined in law is not just question answer. It's not objectives either, and even when it is objectives, the answer is usually not straightforward. So you are required to think, in the sense that a question is not asked for example, what is mens rea in criminal law, right? You wouldn't get a question like that. I personally like to say that you should remove this whole chew and pour thing out of your mind. It doesn't mean that you don't have to memorize anything. That's not true. A level of memorization is important in every course that you study in anywhere in the world. But with law, there is something called legal analysis and legal reasoning, which a lot of you, if you're a law student, you know what I'm talking about. So just keep that in mind. Chew and pour, not gonna work. So the second critical thing every law student must know in order not to fail in law school is that you should know your goal. We don't all know what we want to do or where we want to be when we are done with law school, right? But most of us have a fair idea of what we would like to do in the future. So when you know your goal, you can align everything in your life to fit that goal. So if, for example, your goal is to become a lawyer and practice in Ghana, right? What does this mean for you? This means that certain things are very critical and other things maybe not so much. So in that particular case, right, you know that something like the entrance exam to the Ghana School of Law, that's Makola, is super important to you, right? If you actually want to do the barrister work of being a lawyer, right, it means that your ability to argue in person is very important. So your mooting skills, your presentation skills, your argumentative oral skills are very, very important. Now, that doesn't mean that your grades in law school are not important, but maybe your grades might not be that important to you as compared to someone who, for example, wants to do their masters. Now, if you know that even after you get the opportunity to practice and all that, you still want to do your master's degree, and you want to go to Harvard, you want to go to Stanford, you want to go to whatever, you want to go to some prestigious school in England like Oxford or some other prestigious university. You know that grades are very important. Guys, I 100% disagree with those people who go like, oh, grades are not important, just because this person does well academically doesn't mean that they are anything and all that. I personally completely disagree with this. I think it depends on everyone's goals. So if someone wants to be a lawyer and then they are looking at somebody who excels academically, but then that person knows next to nothing about practice, the person who actually wants to practice might see the academically bright person as someone who is not good. But guess what? Maybe that person doesn't want to practice law. Maybe that person wants to go into academia. Maybe that person wants to teach. Maybe that person wants to work in a government agency. Maybe that person wants to go into policy making. And maybe that person wants to continue on and do their master's and do their PhD. And then, of course, grades are important. Your class is important because when you're applying to a school, they don't just look at your statements of purpose, your extracurricular activities, but they also largely look at grades. And very, very prestigious schools care a lot about grades. Grades are very important also when you're applying for a scholarship and for anything related to that, for funding. A lot of the time, grades are important. The class that you graduated with is important. Sometimes even employers look out for the class that you graduated with. Granted, that's not very common. Most of the time, they would look out for other skills that you have. But whatever the case may be, my point is simple. Just have an idea or a fair idea of what you would like to do or where you would like to be, and tailor yourself to that. If you want to be a practicing lawyer, maybe don't focus too much on grades, but focus on the, general picture. That is getting into the Ghana School of Law, progressing through the Ghana School of Law and actually being called to the bar. And if you are someone who is more of an academic, or you want to, just continue on with your education, then of course, focus a lot on grades as well. This takes us to the next point, which is on internships and volunteering opportunities. Now, if you don't want to fail in law school, it is important for the law to be part of your life, even when you're on vacation, even when you have a break from school. So the tendency for most people to forget what they've studied, sometimes some people even forget how to write, they forget how to do basic things when they go on like a 3-month vacation, right? So what I personally would advise is that you should always be somehow involved with the law when you're in law school. Try to involve the law into your vacation. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't travel. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have fun. You should 100% do those things, but allocate some time to interning or to volunteering at a place which would somehow immerse you into the legal field. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a law firm. It can be an NGO, it can be a company where you would be in the legal department, it can be a bank, again, where you would be in the legal department, it can be a policy making body or agency. Whatever it is that you're interested in. It could even be the police, right? You could work with the police. So I mean, that's just a plus, right? And it helps you kind of just keep yourself on track before you go back to school. So it helps. Don't completely just, go off the radar. After all, you are still in law school. Like, you are still in law school. This is not after you graduate. This is when you are still in school. And you need to be, refreshed on stuff. So I think that that's an important point. Another thing that I think every law student must know is have a right mindset about competition. Now, competition is not necessarily bad, right? There is healthy competition, and when you are competing with other people, it teaches you certain things which you would not learn if there was no competition at all. So that's important, granted. But your mindset when it comes to competition is very important. So when I was in law school, I met some people who would hide books in the library. Sometimes I came across books that were torn, like pages were literally torn out of the books. And I mean, it wasn't a common occurrence, but I did see some of these things, and I heard more about them than I did personally witness them. But they are there, and depending on the school that you're at, the competition can be very, very extreme. So basically, my point is that don't get into negative competition. I never did that. I was never the person who would hide books, who would, try to prevent someone from doing well. I'm that kind of person that's like, I'll just leave you. As in, I'm not someone who would necessarily offer you information, but if you ask, I would help if I can. And if I can't, I mean, so be it, right? But I would never actively prevent you from doing well. I don't understand why people do that. If you are doing anything at all, you should rather try to help people or try to collaborate with people, because it would help you learn. That's if you are the kind of group work, teamwork kind of person, or group studies kind of person, then you should definitely do that rather than hide and prevent people from actually doing well. Also, if you have a case, for example, if you have a file and someone is asking you for it, share it with the person. Like, you see, it doesn't take away anything from you, but then you're rather helping someone. And guess what? A lot of the time when you help someone out, that person will come back to help you too. And my last point is on taking proper lecture notes. Now, some people underestimate this, and that can really cost them dearly, because your lecture notes are basically your guide to studying. It's one of the most important materials that you would have in law school, and your lecture notes can never be compared to somebody else's lecture notes. You should have your own well-organized, well-written lecture notes. I personally recommend that you write down as much as possible of what the lecturer is saying. That's just me. Some people say, it's better to take brief notes. I suppose that is because it's easier to navigate them. So as in, what people say is that write down only what is important. I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, I'm not saying that you should be writing down lecturers' jokes, lecturers' offhand comments, absolutely not. But everything that the lecturer is saying in relation to the subject that he or she is teaching, I recommend you write it down. I'm saying this because it is better to later filter out your notes to get what is most important than to miss something which could have been really, really relevant, but you wouldn't have known its relevance until it was too late. This brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course, I hope you learned something from it. I have a lot more videos that are related to studying the law and law school, so make sure you check them out. Again, you can go to the playlist on my channel page and particularly look for the kind of videos that you are interested in. And that, of course, means I'm going to see you in another video. But right now, I'm just saying bye.